I came back from the hospital a day early, thinking I'd surprise my husband. But instead, I got to surprise myself. The doctors let me go early because all my tests were fine. Honestly, I was just sick of staring at hospital walls. I missed home. I missed Yegor. I didn't even tell him I was coming early. I wanted to see the look on his face when he saw me at the door. I imagined hugs, smiles, and feeling like I was finally home. The taxi drove slowly through familiar streets. There was our building, our yard, the bench where we sat on warm evenings. My heart was beating fast. I opened the door with my key. It was quiet, too quiet. Then I felt it, cold air, and a strange smell. Sweet, heavy perfume. Not mine. I always wore light, fresh scents. In the hallway, I saw a beige cashmere coat and expensive high heels that didn't belong to me. My heart skipped. Maybe his mom came? Or his sister. But no. His mom lives in another city and always calls before visiting. His sister is on vacation abroad. Something was wrong. I went into the living room. On the coffee table were 2 wine glasses and an open box of expensive chocolates, the kind I hate because they're filled with liqueur. And then I heard it, soft laughter. A woman's laugh. From our bedroom. I froze. My legs went weak. Slowly, I walked to the bedroom door. It was slightly open. I peeked through the crack, and my whole world shattered. There, on our bed, on my silk sheets, was Yegor with a young blonde woman on top of him. She was wearing my favorite white robe. The one Yegor gave me on our last anniversary. I didn't scream. I didn't say a word. I felt nothing. No anger. No pain. Just a deep emptiness. Like someone had taken all the air from my lungs. I couldn't move. I just stared. How long did I stand there? A minute? 5? I don't know. Then, quietly, I turned around and walked out. I moved like a robot. Picked up my purse. Made sure I had my phone and wallet. Closed the door behind me without a sound. Outside, I finally took a deep breath. And that's when it hit me. What I saw. What it meant. My legs gave out, and I sat down on that same bench in our yard. I didn't cry. Not a single tear. Instead, something cold and hard began to grow inside me. I felt steel in my veins. I wouldn't cry. Not now. I had to act. I took out my phone. Opened our bank app. There it was, our joint savings account. The one we'd built together for our dream country house. We had saved for nearly 5 years. The amount was big. And in that moment, I made a decision. I blocked every account. Down to the last penny. Then I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed. And that was just the beginning. With one click, I moved all the money into my personal savings account, the one I had secretly opened before the wedding, just in case. Yegor had no idea it even existed. Then I opened the credit card section. We had 2 joint cards with high limits. I blocked both of them. Reason? Card lost. Let's see how he pays for dinner with his new girlfriend now. A notification popped up. Transaction successful. I felt a cold satisfaction. That was step 1. Now, step 2, our home. My home. I wouldn't let him step foot in it again. I searched online and quickly found a service to replace locks urgently. Hello? I need to change all the front door locks as soon as possible. How much does it cost, and how fast can someone get here? My voice sounded calm and strong, even to myself. The woman on the line said a repairman would arrive in an hour. I gave her my address and added, I'll pay with my personal card. I sat down on the bench outside, looking up at our apartment on the 4th floor. I knew he was still in there. And he had no idea that his perfect little world was starting to fall apart. The repairman showed up even earlier than expected. He was an older man with tired eyes. He saw my hospital pajamas under my jacket, but didn't ask questions. He probably sees a lot in his job. He only asked, Do you have the apartment documents with you? Luckily, I had my passport and property papers in my bag. I handed them over. He nodded and got to work. The sound of the old lock being drilled out was like music to me. Every noise felt like a small victory. After about 40 minutes, he said, All done, ma'am. Here's your new set of keys. They felt cold and heavy in my hand, the keys to my new life. I paid, thanked him, and called a taxi. I couldn't go to my parents, not now. I didn't want to scare them or hear them complain. I needed a quiet place to think. So, I booked a room in a small but clean hotel on the other side of town. As soon as I got into the room, I sat on the bed and put my face in my hands. My body shook a little, but still no tears. Just a cold feeling in my chest and a buzzing in my ears. My phone vibrated. Yegor's name lit up on the screen. I gave a bitter smile. Of course. I rejected the call. A minute later, a message came. Alina, where are you? I came to the hospital and they said you were discharged. Are you okay? Why didn't you tell me? What a lie. What a disgusting lie. He hadn't even bothered to clean up after his little date. He never thought I'd come home early. The phone buzzed again. I turned the sound off. Let him panic. Then another message. Alina, something's wrong with my card. I can't pay for gas. Can you check the account? I read it and actually smiled. A real, cruel smile. More messages came about an hour later. I can't get into the apartment. The key doesn't work. What kind of joke is this? Alina, where are you? Answer me now. I put the phone down and let it buzz. Let him freeze outside. That door is now closed to him forever. I reached into my bag to put away my hospital papers. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. At the bottom of the discharge report, in the doctor's handwriting, was a note. Urgent consultation with an oncologist recommended. The medical report said something I hadn't noticed at first. Atypical neoplasm. At the hospital, with all the rush and noise, I hadn't really paid attention. Maybe the doctor didn't want to scare me too soon. But now, sitting in that quiet hotel room, the words hit me like a slap. Atypical neoplasm. It sounded like a death sentence. Suddenly, my husband's betrayal, the locked accounts, the new door locks, all of it seemed small. Unimportant. Who cared who he was sleeping with? What did it matter where he would live? If I was seriously sick, if I didn't have much time left, then none of it mattered anymore. The cold in my chest turned into a thick, choking fear. I sat frozen on the bed in that plain hotel room, staring into space. My phone kept buzzing with calls and messages from Yegor, but I didn't even hear them anymore. His lies, his drama, it all seemed ridiculous now. Tiny, like dust in the middle of a storm. I knew I couldn't stay alone, but I couldn't go to my parents. I'd scare them too much. And I definitely couldn't go to Yegor. There was only one person I could turn to, my best friend, Sveta. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely type her number. She picked up right away. Alinka, hi. I was just about to call you. How are you, sweetie? I'll pick you up tomorrow. I couldn't speak. Only a broken sob came out. Hey, what's wrong? What happened? Her voice turned serious immediately. I tried to explain between shaky breaths about coming home early, the strange coat, the bedroom scene, the locked accounts. She said nothing, just listened. Then I told her about the line in the medical file, about the scary diagnosis. There was a pause. Then, firm and steady, she said, Okay, tell me the hotel address. I'm coming to you right now. And don't you dare give up, got it? We don't know anything yet. It could be a mistake, or just a cyst, or something harmless. We'll figure it out. Her voice was like a glass of cold water in the desert. I gave her the address and hung up. While I waited, my phone buzzed again. This time it was my mom. I didn't want to answer, but she kept calling. I finally picked up. Alinaka, my daughter. What's going on? Yegor called us. He's panicking. He says he can't reach you, can't get into the apartment. He said you were discharged, but now you've disappeared. We're worried, sick. Her voice made me wince. Mom, everything's fine. Please don't worry, I lied. My phone just died and the key wasn't working. I'm staying at Sveta's tonight. I'll explain everything tomorrow, okay? She calmed down a little, but I knew it wouldn't last. Yegor would keep pushing them, pretending to be the loving, worried husband. He really should have gone into acting. While we were talking, I got a call from my mother-in-law Tamara Petrovna. I ignored it. I didn't have the energy for her, too. And then Sveta burst into the room like a superhero. No gasps. No drama. She just came over and hugged me tight. For the first time that day, I finally cried. Really cried. I buried my face in her shoulder and sobbed. She just held me and stroked my hair, whispering, "It's okay. You're safe now. We'll get through this together." After I calmed down a little, she sat me on the bed, pulled out a thermos of hot tea and a notebook. "All right," she said with a calm, focused voice.
"Here's the plan.
First, Yegor can wait. We're putting him on pause. Second, your health. That's our #1 priority." I called my friend. He gave me the number of the best oncologist in the city, Professor Orlov. His schedule's packed, but I told him it was urgent. "We've got an appointment tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm going with you." I looked at her in disbelief. In the middle of this nightmare, I had someone by my side. Not just a friend. My guardian angel. Sveta, and I talked almost the whole night. She didn't let me sink into dark thoughts. Instead, she made me focus on the details, on making plans. I told her everything about the money. She nodded and said, "Well done. You did everything right. This is your safety net now. For treatment, for your new life, for whatever comes next." In the morning, we went to a private clinic. It was a sleek building made of glass and concrete. Inside, everything was spotless and quiet. But not a peaceful quiet, more like the kind that makes your chest feel heavy. In the hallway, a few people sat silently, their eyes full of worry. I grabbed Sveta's hand like a lifeline. Finally, they called my name. Professor Orlov's office was full of light, with a huge window. He stood to greet us. He was an older man, with gray hair and kind but serious eyes. He took his time reading my hospital papers. Then he examined me, carefully and gently, asking all the right questions. I could barely speak. Every answer came out short and quiet. I was frozen inside, waiting for the worst. Finally, he removed his gloves and looked at me. "Well, Alina," he said, "there is a neoplasm. But don't panic yet. To understand what it is, we'll need to do a biopsy and some other tests. From what I can see right now, there's no reason to expect the worst, but we do need to move fast." He handed me a stack of test orders. I took them without thinking. I felt lightheaded. It wasn't a death sentence, but it wasn't nothing either. Just the unknown. We were about to leave. I stood near the door, trying to clear my head. Sveta was asking something about the next steps. Then the professor suddenly looked up at me, a little differently. "Excuse me, Alina," he said slowly. "Is your married name Sokolovskaya?" I blinked. "Yes." "And your husband, his name is Yegor?" "Yegor Andreevich." My heart dropped. "Yes," I whispered. "Do you know him?" Professor Orlov took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose, like he was carrying something heavy. His face changed. He looked sad. Deeply sad. "I know him," he said quietly. "I treated him a couple of years ago. We went through a lot together." He paused, searching for the right words. "Your husband had a very similar condition, but his case was more severe. We barely pulled him back from the edge." He looked at me again, and this time his voice lowered. "It's strange, very strange, that he never told you." I couldn't breathe. My ears were ringing. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. Yegor, my husband. He had cancer or something like it, and he never told me. For 2 years, he lived with that secret. And said nothing.
Why?
Why didn't he say anything? Why hide it? So many questions exploded in my head, each one worse than the last. And suddenly, the betrayal in our bedroom. It didn't even compare to this. This wasn't just a lie. This was something deeper. Darker. Sveta jumped to my side, holding my arm. "Alina, are you okay?" But I didn't hear her. I was still looking at Professor Orlov.
And he was looking at me.
And in his eyes, I saw something more than sympathy. I saw knowledge. Heavy, complicated knowledge. Something he wasn't saying. Something that wasn't just about Yegor. It had something to do with me, 2. My voice came out as a whisper. Professor, please tell me.
Tell me what happened to him.
Tell me what you know. And I realized I was about to hear something that would change everything. Professor Orloff sighed deeply, then motioned for us to sit back down. Sveta gently pushed me toward the chair because I couldn't move on my own anymore. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me. The doctor didn't rush to speak. It was like he was carefully thinking about every word. Alina, he began gently, you have to understand that I'm bound by doctor-patient confidentiality. I can't tell you all the details about your husband's diagnosis. But some things go beyond just medical rules. These are about ethics, about being human. He looked straight into my eyes. I could see real pain in his. 2 years ago, Yegor went through very serious treatment with us. His condition was critical. It was a long, hard fight, but luckily he survived. We reached stable remission. He paused, then added, but the illness he had, it can be genetic. We talked many times about how he needed to tell his wife, especially if you two were planning to have children. That was the one thing I asked him to do. I really believed he had. Genetic. That word hit me harder than catching my husband with another woman. My own illness no longer felt like a random thing. It felt connected to him, his disease. He knew. He kept that to himself. And still let me dream about having a family. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something deeper. He had lied in a way that affected my health, my life. He didn't tell me anything, I whispered. My own voice didn't sound like mine. I understand, the professor said softly. And honestly, I'm shocked. That's incredibly irresponsible. Alina, he continued, I don't want to scare you, but you need to get a full checkup as soon as possible. We have to find out if your illness is connected to his. He handed me a business card. This is my personal number.
Call anytime.
I'll help speed things up. We left the clinic and got into Sveta's car without saying a word. I stared out the window, but I wasn't really seeing anything. Just one thought kept repeating in my mind. He knew. He looked into my eyes, held me, slept beside me, knowing he had something dangerous inside him. And he said nothing.
Why?
Was he scared I'd leave? Or did he just not care? Everything in our relationship started to look different. His constant tiredness, which he blamed on work. How he avoided going to the doctor with me. The way he joked about being healthy as a bull. His weird distance in recent months. Those weren't signs of relationship problems.
They were all part of the same big lie.
How are you feeling? Sveta asked gently as we drove down the road. I'm fine, I said coldly. Completely fine. Now I know what I have to do. My phone vibrated. It was full of missed calls, from Yegor, from his mother. Then another call came in, Tamara Petrovna. Normally, I wouldn't have answered. But this time I was ready. I picked up and put it on speaker. Alina. Finally. My dear girl, what's going on? Where are you? Yegor is out of his mind. He's standing outside, can't even get into the house. Did you change the locks? Why are you doing this to him? He loves you. Her voice was full of panic and anger. Hello, Tamara Petrovna, I answered calmly. That calmness must have thrown her off, because she went quiet. Alina explained. What is this nonsense? If you two had a fight, that's no reason to throw him out. Especially with his health. She stopped herself. That was it. The final piece. She knew. She had known everything all along. She had helped him lie. With his health. I repeated slowly. What's wrong with his health, Tamara Petrovna? Something serious? The silence on the other end was so deep, I could hear my own heartbeat. Well, he's just very tired. From work. You know, nerves, she said, stammering.
A lie.
Another one. It was such a pathetic, clumsy lie. Tamara Petrovna, I'm at Professor Orloff's clinic right now, I said slowly and clearly. Sveta gasped and gripped the steering wheel tightly. He's a very nice man. We had a good talk. He said hello to Yegor and was surprised I didn't know anything about Yegor's diagnosis from 2 years ago. The line went completely silent. I could hear her breathing, heavy, uneven. She was caught. All of them were caught. So, I'll ask again. I said, my voice now firm and cold. Why did you all lie to me? Why did you let me live with a man who could put me in danger? And you said nothing. Alanaka, you must have misunderstood something, she began, using that soft, sweet tone to calm me down. But I cut her off. No, Tamara Petrovna. I think, for the first time in 5 years, I understand everything clearly. Tell your son to stop calling me. And you should stop too. From now on, we'll only speak through lawyers. Lawyers? What lawyers? Alina, don't be stupid. You can't do this, she said, her voice shaking with fear. You know the apartment, the summer house, it's all in his name. You'll be left with nothing.
Ah,
that was it. That was what they were really afraid of. Not his broken heart, but his property. That was all the confirmation I needed. They were scared that if I found out the truth, I'd file for divorce and take my share. So instead, they kept me in the dark, even if it meant putting my health at risk. Don't worry about me, Tamara Petrovna, I said with a cold smile. I'll take care of myself. But you and your son? You should start worrying. I haven't decided what I'll do with the information I got today.
Goodbye.
I ended the call and leaned back in my seat. I felt exhausted, but strangely powerful. No more lies. No more guessing. I knew their weak spot now. It wasn't love. It wasn't family. It was money. Property. That's what they were truly afraid of losing. You're amazing, Sveta breathed, pulling into the hotel's temporary parking. You really handled that. What now? She asked. I looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the fire back in my eyes.
Now?
I'm going to the bank. I need the full record of all our joint accounts from the past 2 years. I want to know where our savings for the house actually went. I have a feeling I'm about to find some very interesting stuff. Then I grabbed my phone and found a number I never thought I'd use. I called my cousin. He just opened a private detective agency. I'm sure he can find a good investigator for me. I want to know everything. Who Yegor was seeing, where he went, and most importantly, what he spent our money on. Everything. The rest of the day felt like a blur. But I stayed focused like a machine. While Sveta made arrangements for my urgent medical checkup, I took charge of our finances. Luckily, the bank helped me quickly. The young teller looked at me with sympathy as the printer spit out page after page, details of our joint accounts. I grabbed the thick stack of papers and went back to the hotel. There, with a red marker in one hand and a cold cup of tea in the other, I started going through the truth of my broken marriage. Numbers don't lie. And the story they told was worse than anything I had imagined. Yes, there were the usual expenses, food, bills, basic stuff. But also a pattern of strange payments. Every month, the same large amount sent to a woman I didn't know, Irina Viktorovna P. There were charges from restaurants Yegor and I had never visited, jewelry stores, women's boutiques,
Spas.
and worst of all, a massive payment made 6 months ago to a luxury car dealership. The amount was the same as buying a good foreign car. I remembered how, back then, Yegor told me we needed to tighten our belts because he was having money problems at work. He said his bonus had been cut. And during that same time, he was buying someone a car. With our money. Money I earned just as much as he did. Money I saved by giving up things I wanted, all for the dream of a house together. Rage filled me again. But this time, it wasn't hot and emotional. It was cold, focused, and sharp. I called my cousin Kirill. The call was short and to the point. I didn't get into emotions. I just explained the situation. My husband.
Lies.
Cheating. And probably stealing from me. Kirill, who used to work in law enforcement and now runs a small but solid detective agency, listened quietly. Got it, he said finally. We need the best guy for this. Give me a couple of hours. I'll send someone to you. His name's Anton. You can trust him. And Alina, hang in there. We're going to expose this bastard. His confidence gave me strength. About an hour and a half later, I heard a knock on my hotel room door. A man around 40 stood there. He looked very average, medium height, dark hair, calm face. If I passed him on the street, I wouldn't even notice him. Perfect look for a detective. Anton, he said, holding out his hand. Kirill told me everything. How can I help? I let him in and laid the bank statements on the table, the ones I had already marked up with red ink. Anton got straight to work. He read through everything fast, taking notes. Irina Viktorovna P. We'll check her, he said with a nod. I wrote down the names of restaurants, shops. The car dealership. That's interesting. I'll find out who the car is registered to. Might take a day or two. Anything else? I want everything, I said firmly. I want a whole story. Who he's with, how long it's been going on, where they meet. I want pictures, videos, whatever you can get. And I paused to collect my thoughts. I want to know if they own anything together that I don't know about. Like an apartment. Anton nodded. Understood. I'll have the first report for you by tomorrow night. He left, and I was alone again, with my thoughts and a growing pile of proof of betrayal. That evening, Sveta called. She said everything was arranged. The clinic would see me in the morning for all the tests. The next day passed in hospital corridors. Blood tests, ultrasounds, a CT scan with contrast dye. The procedures were uncomfortable, but I didn't feel fear anymore. Only determination. I had to get healthy, to live, to fight, to make them pay for what they did to me. That night, when I got back to my room, tired and drained, I got a message from Anton. Got something. I can come by in an hour. I told him yes. Exactly an hour later, he was at my door again, holding a thin folder. He handed it to me silently. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The first thing I saw was a photo. Yegor, walking out of a building I didn't recognize, with his arm wrapped around the waist of that same blonde woman I had seen in our bedroom. They were laughing. They looked happy. The next photo, the two of them getting into a brand new white SUV. The same car we had tightened our belts for. Then came the written report. Cold, dry facts. But they hit me like a punch to the chest. Her name, Irina Viktorovna Polyakova. 32 years old. Fitness trainer at a high-end gym. She had been having an affair with Yegor for almost 3 years, basically since the time he had gone into remission. Those monthly payments I had seen, they were paying for the apartment where they met. The same building from the photo. And the car? Registered in her name. A gift. For the anniversary of their relationship. Bought with the money we were saving for our house. But the worst part was at the end. Anton had pulled some strings and checked for big real estate transactions. He found something. Just last week, while I was lying in the hospital getting ready for surgery, Yegor signed a purchase agreement. He was buying an apartment in the same new building we had been saving for. But he didn't buy it in both our names. He bought it jointly. 50% him, 50% Irina Viktorovna Polyakova. The folder fell out of my hands. This was why he didn't want me to know about his health. Because if I had known, I could have legally protected myself. He needed me blind, quiet, powerless. But not anymore. This is why Yegor and his mother were so afraid of divorce. They weren't scared of losing me, they were just waiting. Waiting until they had saved enough money to buy a new home for his next family. And once they had it, I guess they planned to throw me away. Maybe they were hoping I'd get sick again, and the problem would solve itself. That thought was so cruel, I couldn't even understand it at first. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was a cold, planned-out trap. They didn't just lie to me. They were ready to wait for me to die or push me out with nothing. In that moment, something in me completely died. Love. Sympathy. Even the good memories. It all turned to ash. What was left was cold anger, the kind that comes when you know justice is on your side. I picked up my phone and called Professor Orlov. Hello, Professor. This is Alina Sokolovskaya. Are my test results ready? There was silence for a few seconds, then I heard papers being moved. I held my breath. Everything now depended on his answer. My health, my future, and my plan. If it was bad news, I'd fight the illness. But if it was good, I'd fight for justice. Yes, Alina, he said calmly. I just got the results. I've looked over everything. And I have good news. The tumor is benign. It's just a fibroadenoma. It's not dangerous, but we'll remove it just to be safe. It's a simple surgery. I covered my mouth and cried in silence, tears of relief. I was going to live. I was healthy. But, the professor added, his tone more serious. The fact that you developed this, given your husband's medical history, is a big red flag. You're very lucky, Alina. But your husband had no right to risk your health like that. I thanked him and hung up. My tears dried quickly, but something had changed inside me. I was no longer afraid. Life had given me another chance, and I wouldn't waste it. I called Yegor. He picked up right away, as if he'd been holding the phone all day. Alina, thank God. Where are you? What's going on? I'm losing my mind. His voice was full of fake panic. Yegor, calm down, I said. Even I was surprised by how calm I sounded. No anger. No crying. Just quiet strength. We need to talk. Come to our apartment in 1 hour. I'll be waiting. Our apartment? But how? Just come. The door will be open. I hung up before he could ask more. Then I called Sveta and Anton, my cousin, the private detective. The plan was ready. I got to the apartment 30 minutes early. Anton was already there. He was setting up a tiny hidden camera in the living room. Just in case, he said. A recording could be useful. I nodded. On the coffee table, I laid out everything he had found. Photos of Yegor with Irina. A copy of the contract for their new apartment. Phone records of his calls with her from the past week. Next to those, I placed my hospital papers and the professor's report. When the doorbell rang, my heart stayed calm. No fear. No doubt. I opened the door. Yegor was standing there. Behind him was his mother, Tamara Petrovna, already looking at me like I was the villain. She was ready to protect her precious son. Perfect, I thought. Everyone is here. Alenaka, sweet girl. Finally, Tamara cried, reaching out to hug me. I took a step back. We were so worried. What have you done? Yegor walked into the living room without saying a word. When Yegor saw all the papers on the table, he froze. His face turned pale and blotchy. What is this? He whispered. I calmly stepped up to the table. This, Yegor, is our life from the past 3 years. Here's your girlfriend, Irina. Here's the car you gave her, paid with our money. And here's the apartment you were planning to buy for her, all while I was in the hospital. Sweet, isn't it? His mother, Tamara Petrovna, gasped and grabbed her chest. Yegor looked at me with hate in his eyes. So, this is how you chose to spy on me? He asked. No, Yegor, I replied. I just wanted to know the truth. And now I do. I picked up my hospital papers. This is the most interesting part. I got sick too, with something very similar to your illness. The difference is, I got lucky. I saw the fear in his eyes turn to realization. He knew I had figured everything out. Tamara Petrovna started mumbling something about medical privacy, saying they didn't want to upset me. Didn't want to upset me? I laughed, cold and bitter. You just didn't want to split the property. You were waiting, either for me to die from the same disease, or until you saved up enough to kick me out with nothing. Yegor kept his head down. He didn't deny it. That silence was his confession. I sat down, calm and in control. I have a business offer for you. You and your mother are going to the notary today. You'll sign over this apartment and the dacha, both fully in my name.
What?
Never. Tamara shouted. Yegorushka worked hard for this. He worked hard with me, I snapped, and then spent most of it on his lover. This is fraud, and I have all the proof. If you say no, I'll go straight to the police. And believe me, with his medical history, prison is not where he wants to be. So go ahead, choose. They looked at each other, panicked and angry. But they knew I had won. They were trapped. 3 hours later, we left the notary. I was holding documents that said I now owned the apartment and the dacha, all of it. Yegor and his mother walked away without saying a word. What waited for them? An unfinished apartment, a mountain of debt, and a life built on lies. I finally felt free. 6 months passed. I renovated the apartment, selling everything that reminded me of my old life. I sold the dacha too. With that money, I opened a small flower shop, something I'd dreamed of for years. My health was good. I went for checkups and enjoyed each day. Sometimes I thought about Yegor. Sveta told me Irina left him as soon as she learned he had no money and huge debts. They never finished building that apartment. I didn't feel sorry for them. I didn't just get justice, I got myself back. The new me, stronger, wiser, and truly alive. That's how the story ends. I'm grateful to life for giving me the strength to go through all of it and come out victorious. Thank you so much for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, please support our channel. Like the video, leave a comment with your thoughts about the main character, and of course, subscribe so you won't miss more real-life stories like this. Your support means the world to us. Take care, and all the best to you. Yellow Heart.